Welcome to the second episode of Series 22, everyone. A catacon has come and gone, and many apologies for the late episode this week. But we will be back on schedule at our normal day and time next week with the conclusion of this series. We had a lot of fun recording with Hannah and Evan, and I don't believe there's really any announcements to talk about, and I'm actually pretty sleepy with this heavy-hitting con drop. So, how about we just get into the episode? Enjoy. Last time on Character Creation Cast, we all created unnamed ghosts ready to dive into a fresh new world. Hannah picked the Mischief Maker, Evan picked the Gardener, Amelia picked the Investigator, and I picked the Builder. We're picking up right where we left off right now. Enjoy.
But now we're going to make people within the people.
Ooh.
And these people
who
that
make
our people are making are people who make
It's
people.
peopleception.
Yes.
Maybe some of them will be the people that were made by the people who make people.
Oh my gosh, this hurts my brain. What have you done, Ryan?
And then you gotta wonder if those people make people.
Ryan, stop.
So
No more, I can't.
This is the fantasy singularity.
ooh, yeah.
Let's make a place.
So let me frame what's about to happen here. This is the point where the game setup is over, and now we're playing. So, or to put it another way, from here on, setup and play continue together.
For infinity.
On our turns,
Uh-oh.
as ghosts, we are able to introduce new elements of the setting, to expand on those elements or connect them together, to change what's happening in the kingdom by introducing new troubles, or to set scene and bring specific characters into a scene and get down to a real moment-to-moment level.
Ooh.
And those are all available as a choice every single turn for each one of us from here on in. So, I don't want to... playing the game is not normally part of the character creation cast at this point.
But this whole
So
game is kind
I'm
of just
proposing-
creating, so...
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm proposing at this point that we don't call for scenes, but that we do begin the process of creating this world and creating the characters within it. And maybe when we feel like we have a good cast and we feel like we're getting to the point where we would want to call for a scene and start to put things into motion, we can call it there, or even cap things with a advancing of the moon phase, which is another special thing that you can do on your turn.
Ooh.
One of the documents that was in the folder that you all received in a clandestine message before we began
Will it self-destruct? That's all I need to know.
is the phases of the moon, your connection to the world. This tracks both the events of the world, our connection to it as ghosts, like how much influence we have over the world, waxes and wanes, and also the opening of the ghost passage that would let us leave. At this moment, we are in the waxing phase of this world, heading towards the full moon. And by advancing that phase, it brings us closer to both the crisis point of this world and the opening of the ghost passage. If we chose to stay past the ghost passage, the world would undergo a huge transformation. So staying for another round of phases tends to dramatically change the world that you're in for each cycle.
Cool.
Interesting.
I'm very excited for this.
Uh-huh.
Is this the shortest character creation you've had on Character Creation Cast?
I mean, it might be.
Yeah, just about.
So
Hannah, do you want to just go
Yeah,
into
so
detail
just to
about
sort of-
what it's like to introduce an element and maybe get us started?
Yeah.
Did you ask for who did you?
I asked for you to do it. I did not mean to volunteer.
Cool. So, yeah, just as a reminder, on your turn, you can introduce a new element, expand on an existing element, reveal a new trouble, set a scene, which we're not going to do here, advance the moon phase, which is, advanced maneuvers, maybe we'll only do at the end, or introduce a touchstone. And then there's little descriptions of how each of those work, but feel free to ask questions. So I'm going to introduce an element, and let's see, what do we know? We're in Iris. We're building people who build people who build people. I think I'm going to introduce a new NPC. I'm going to say they are a person who has been built.
Ooh.
And they are like a sort of a baby person, but they are a full-grown person, but, baby in that they are sort of just awakening in some way after their construction. And I'm going to call them... It's always the stupidest names that pop into my head. I'm like, not Blart. Don't say Blart.
I have my book, so if we want, we can just randomly.
Yeah, get me a name. That would be great.
Okay. All right. Do you have preferred pronouns for this person?
Let's say they, them.
Okay. Then I am going to go and look. There's specifically a list in here of androgynous or gender neutral names too.
Cool.
So, let's see here. How about Camden?
I love it. Yeah. So, everybody should ask, the way that this works is that everybody should just ask me one follow-up question about Camden so we can build them out a little bit.
Okay. And we can ask anything we want?
Anything. Yeah.
Okay. I want to know, what does Camden believe their personal purpose is in this process of building people? Because I assume we're making people that build people, right? Is that all they do here?
Yeah.
I don't know. That's not really about this person. That's a whole other bigger question.
Oh, yeah. There's a whole lot of questions to be answered. I think that I think Camden doesn't know their purpose yet.
Ooh.
I think that they're sort of awaiting, ready to discover it.
Does Camden have any special relationship to their builder?
Yeah, I think Camden feels like a loving affinity for their builder.
Cool.
Like just generally, what sort of form does Camden have?
I think that Camden is... I'd like to ask other people if there's something, like if you have a visual for Camden, if anything sort of popped into anybody's mind.
I mean, to be honest, I'm imagining some extra arms.
Fair.
Ooh,
I guess if you're going to build
like-
people.
Yeah.
Right? That's like, if you get to choose how many arms people have, maybe we go with 4.
Ryan, was there something you were going to say also?
For some reason, like, as we were talking about people building people, the first thing that popped into my mind, those wooden posable, like, drawing aids?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, they kind of look like
cool.
that.
Yeah.
But with 4 arms,
So
I guess.
it's like simplified
Oh,
geometric
I'm super into that.
body parts.
Yeah,
and
so they
forms.
have extra arms, but are sort of, that type of wooden simplified shapes.
I think that, like, they slightly resemble the builder. I think of it as, like, this is partly an artistic process, and so, like, there's a school of thought for each build, and you are influenced by, like, who built you and then who you build, and, like, down the line. Like, artists are influenced by, like, where they learned their craft and from whom and things like that. So I feel like I envision it as, like, a thing that's, like, continually expanding, but you can sort of see the tree of, like, where things came from.
Cool.
I love that. There's a trope of, built people all looking very identical. And I like the idea that there's a lot more sort of artistic freedom in the creation of these people and variation between them.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. And I didn't say this before, but I'll say this now, that like in this process, safety tools and veto apply. So like if anybody says something that people want to pivot from, feel free to do that. And you can also use like expanding on an existing element to sort of bring a conversation in a new direction. So to be like, I want to expand on this because this idea is like not quite gelling with me yet. So yeah, that's my addendum.
All right.
Cool.
Yeah, so I'm going to call that my turn.
Okay, that's really interesting. Nice.
Yeah, I like that. I don't know, Ryan, do you want to go next?
Sure.
This is usually your jam. I'm going to see where this goes.
Oh, that's really interesting. I'm going to introduce a location.
Cool.
And I'm going to say it is, it's almost like a museum or a Hall of Fame type deal for historical builders.
Oh, that's neat.
Oh, cool.
Okay, I'm going to ask, are there a lot of builders in the Hall of Fame, or is it a pretty like, exclusive club here? I'm
going to say there's a ton, since it's a big staple of the society. It almost feels like the building itself is continually growing to continue to add newer builders.
Cool.
That are doing interesting and new things with the building process of people. And it even includes the people that are being built that are also building people. So there's kind of like generational wings as well.
Oh, that's awesome.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Who's in charge of deciding who ends up in this museum?
That's a good question. I want to say it's kind of like a given if you are recognized as a builder of these people, as long as you create life, then you are allowed to become one of the people featured in this building.
So it's somewhat self-selected.
Yes.
Cool.
Are there reasons that people would specifically opt out of being in this Hall of Fame?
I want to say that the only way to opt out is to never reveal that you have built other life to society.
Oh.
You have to be
Cool.
you kind of have to do that work in secret. It's almost like a physical Wikipedia
Oh, that's
of
cool.
all the builders.
Yeah.
I like it.
Evan, do you want to go next or do you want me to go or?
I'm happy to go. I have an idea
Oh, do it then.
from the way that last conversation went. I'd like to introduce an aspect of this setting, which is camouflaged or mimicking people that are created as a strategy to keep them out of the museum, to keep them out of the official records. There is an art to making people who can fold themselves up into a chair or who can become very flat or can somehow hide themselves or camouflage themselves so that they are not picked up, they're not registered, and they can perform actions that are not generally permitted.
Oh.
Ooh.
Interesting.
So my question is, what sorts of actions are not permitted?
Well, we have a lot to get into there, right? Let's not do an exhaustive rundown. But
Or maybe then like
I
what
think-
things are like are permitted or are accepted, either way.
I think ending the life of somebody else might not be permitted, but possibly with an exception for life that you yourself have created.
Oh, that's dark.
Oh, that is super dark.
We let an artist have control over their canvas, even if they want to scrap it and start over.
Oh man. So we're really getting into this like are the sentient creations that we create actually sentient sort of discussion.
And like, at what point is your art not yours anymore?
Yeah.
Right. Well, part of what's being forbidden is itself just the act of not having it registered as part of the museum, as part of your official creation. So just existing in a way that isn't cataloged and known by society at large is forbidden.
Oh, I have so many more questions.
I've got a question formulating. Okay, so people creating camouflaged or people that can mimic other objects to stay hidden. And you can end the life of your own creations. That's allowed. Is there ever a point where you are not allowed to end your own creations?
I think that the entrance of it into the museum archives is exactly that point.
Awesome. That's
where now it is given the rights of a living being.
Oh, wow. So with whoa.
This is whew. I really like this.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. Can I pass on a question?
Of course.
There's just like
it's your game.
Yeah.
You make the rules.
We don't really have. All right. So I'm going to say that you can pass on a question if you feel like, you know, we've either said enough about this or if there is too much more to say.
Well, yeah, remember that one option is always that you can expand on an element that's already here. So if you wanted to return to this, you could take your whole turn to introduce a new part of it that gets its own questions.
That's amazing.
Yeah. I'm going to pass because I want to just like sit with this for a minute.
Cool.
Yeah, this is really interesting. Wow. Okay.
Yeah, I know. Like, where do I go from here?
One thing that you can do, just to throw out an option, if you're not sure about what kind of element you want to introduce, rolling for a trouble is a really simple one. The dice get involved, so there's some randomness, and it will add a new pressure to the setting. But if you have something else cooking, don't let me stop you.
I kind of do. Although we'll get to that maybe. I was like, I do want to see what happens when you randomly roll things. I like doing that. I think I want to add a location.
Ooh.
I think because you have all of these unregistered people, essentially, I imagine that there's some sort of like cooperative or something where they all congregate. Because I think functioning within society when you're not like part of this, you know, like registered group is probably difficult. I imagine it being like, you know, like if you don't have a social security number or something, like, so you sort of have to like make your own portion of this world. And so I think that there's probably somewhere that they all kind of congregate or is like their group area.
Cool.
Interesting.
Is it a place that's hidden in plain sight?
I don't think that it's all that hidden. I think it is like it's known that these kinds of people exist, that they aren't, you know, like registered or whatever. It's just that their ability to do things is sort of limited by that factor. So I don't think that like their existence is necessarily like illegal or anything like that. It's just that it is difficult for them to do things. So I think that it's just maybe like kind of toward the edge of this town or area or something like that, but it's not like hidden or secret or like anything like that.
Cool.
Yeah. And I don't think that there's any sort of like need for it to be. Like, I don't think that there's like any kind of like particular like discrimination or anything there. It's just that like they don't have, you know, everybody needs like some kind of name or so. Like it's just sort of expected and they don't have that. And everybody's like, well, I don't know what to do with that.
Cool. What kind of stuff did they do there?
I'm wondering, do these people like build people of their own, or have they decided like they don't want to be a part of that? I know I don't get to ask the questions.
You totally can, though.
You do. You actually can completely throw questions back to us.
Okay, I mean, I
You're
feel like
just
that's my question
charge.
is like, because if this is where they all like live, because I said I imagined it as sort of like a cooperative kind of a thing. Are they continuing to build things?
I like the idea that they're reluctant to, that especially knowing that, they're sort of off the grid, that they have a harder place in society. It's considered, maybe a little irresponsible to bring somebody into that state, create a new life that's doomed to be in there.
So going back, I'm trying to process this. They are like unregistered, like people didn't register them as their creations, right? Like it's not that these people decided not to
Right.
register. Okay. Just trying to remember how that worked. Where in the line of people does this break down? As we create the people who create the people that created the people.
But we've already established that if these unregistered created people end up creating people that they register, then the unregistered become recognized and registered.
Do they?
In the archives, right?
So in the archives, are you registering your creation or are you registering yourself?
I think you're registering yourself. If your creation is not a builder of people, then your creation doesn't go in there.
But then like that, so I don't know if that makes sense though, because I'm trying to think that like if you register yourself, you could still create things and have them not be in there. Then it would be like your own choice to not be. I assumed that it was like
either. Like you can either register your creation, or your creation, if unregistered, can be like, I'm unregistered. I don't know. It opens up so many questions. It's like if you're a creation
then,
that can
why have these people not registered?
Is there like then a stigma of unregistered people creating other people?
I think there might
maybe
be.
by the law, once anybody creates another person, they get into the archive, but they're kind of like snubbed by society.
I mean, I know that we want to make the world kind of complicated. I think for me, I'd rather avoid like the sort of like discriminatory aspect of that.
Would one way to handle like to sort of pivot away from that be to make it less about like society discriminating against, these like unregistered, this like process of unregistered creation, and more that it's like sort of a snooty, like a status thing a little bit? Like, there's like the rogue artist collectives.
Yes. Yeah, I like that.
Does that help?
Sort of like, that sort of like these people have said like
like with a weird
no to their social norms. Like we're going to go like, yes, like we have our anarchist cooperative.
Yeah,
over here.
Exactly.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, I like that.
Cool.
Thank you. Just trying to figure out how to do it and like still make it interesting and complicated.
It's hard to bring it all together.
Yeah. And remember, like, what level of person are we at?
we're so many levels of people deep in this game.
Yeah.
Cool. So have we
That brings us back to you, Hannah.
I'm going to roll for a trouble then.
Oh, fun.
Ooh,
cool. Yeah. And other people can too. But I don't want to make anything new without help from the dice. Okay, I rolled, I think that's a diamond. So that would be a trouble related to wealth, desire, or resources.
That is really interesting. Okay.
Wow. There's so many directions that you can go with this. All right, so I'm going to start, and then other people can add things or ask questions. I feel like maybe if we're talking about this being like a little bit of a regulated process of like, this is what, this is what level of person you have to create to be entered into the museum. If there's like certain like materials and like standards you have to meet, like I wonder if our materials that we consider like life making are somehow limited or running out. Something is maybe interrupting the flow of our people making.
I like it.
I'll leave it there.
What are the consequences of compromising on the materials you make a person out of?
I don't want it to go in a direction of like, oh, it's like a wacky clone, like I want every person to sort of be like full and have like self-determination. But I think that, maybe it will be, I don't know.
Do you just need a certain amount of it to even make the thing at all?
Yeah, let's say that. I mean,
so
maybe,
like you just maybe can't make from there?
Maybe to some extent our reproduction and like the continuation of our society relies on this process. Maybe it's not like sinister, but like, yeah, we make people. This is the way we continue our lines. And
I think, I mean, if you have like people making people, like it's exponentially growing too. So like there's a continued strain then on that resource. And so like, do you have to like clamp down on like, and say like, okay, you can each only create one or two things. Like you can't like, oh man, I don't know how much I can keep talking here. But like, I wonder if that leads to then people saying like, well, if I can only create one thing, it needs to be a masterpiece, rather than being like, oh, I can kind of like try things out and see, and like have people have a lot of different creations. But like, is there like this sudden sort of like school of thought of the thing I create needs to be perfection?
Right.
Good question.
My mind went a little dark for some reason. Would this imply that down the line, if these creations do not expire normally, is there like potential for kind of an underground recycling program?
Ooh.
Oh, Ryan.
I'm going to say, for the sake of not, I was just watching The Purge last night in the background, and I was like, this is too much for me.
Just in the background?
Yeah, just in the background while working on Questlandia. I think that, what if they do expire naturally? And like there is, and maybe even people have some control over like there's this point at which you're like, oh, I feel like I've lived my full life, or so sort of continuing to center the issue then on more like a potential shortage of life making materials.
So effectively society can only grow so big.
Yeah.
With whatever materials are available.
In both directions. Yeah, I think if we're making too many people, there's a resource shortage. And if there's not enough people, there's a resource shortage. So
interesting.
That's what I'll say.
Is this a new discovery, this shortage? How many questions do I get to ask? Can I keep asking questions? I don't know if I'm only supposed to ask one.
Expand if you want to like wait on it, and you can expand on your turn.
I'm going to think about
right, this resource shortage.
I got more questions.
Evan, I can't remember if you asked something or not.
What do you think about this resource being a special kind of wood that comes from a special kind of tree that has to be grown? It takes many years to grow the tree, and the resource is limited by that rate, and something has happened that's disrupted our ability to grow the trees or to slow them down. And that's what's creating this new pressure on us.
I'm into it.
I like it.
Yeah, I like it. It answers some of the most complex questions I had about our sort of self-regulating government. I like putting it on trees instead. Cool.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I'm into this world already.
Yeah, who wants to go next?
I will, if we want. Would you like to roll for me?
Oh, yes, certainly.
Ooh, another trouble.
Cool.
I like making things complex and difficult. I like making things tough for the people around me.
Oh, yeah, I'm rolling. Why was I waiting for... I was like, tell me what to roll. It's another diamond.
Oh, no. That compounds the effect, right?
So so it tends to compound. Like it's like there is something right now in the immediate that is shifting our resource shortage to a dire situation.
Okay. What is the economy of a place that just makes more people? Do they have to go somewhere? Are we making these people for a thing? Like,
It's a good
Great
question.
question.
yeah, is this, I guess, here's a backing up question about like this game and the worlds. And whenever I ask these questions, the answer is, you tell me. But this world that we're in, like, are we only seeing a part of the world? Like, is this like one small nation in a country that we're in? Or are we like in a world that we're in? Or are we like, is this the whole thing?
Generally, there's always more outside of us. And we can talk about how neighboring societies are different from us or what kind of relationships we have with them.
Okay.
So, yeah, to bring that in, I think it makes sense that we're exporting something.
Mm-hmm. I have weird, I don't know. I have weird feelings about like, obviously like this society is like built around creating people, but like I have weird, gross feelings about exporting people.
Yeah, same. No people exports.
There is a thing.
Yeah.
It could be like some nations that just have excellent education programs and create certain kinds of professionals that are then, popular throughout the world or spread.
Mm-hmm.
Like we could be creating people who are just absolutely experts at certain crafts or endeavors or knowledgeable things, exporting them as scientists,
Mm-hmm.
And it's not so much that the government is like, we're going to send this person there. It's more that the creations can decide where they want to go, what they want to do, but there is sort of a tax or an amount that they give back to us when they live elsewhere.
Interesting. And then, so then if we are making fewer people, then like there are potentially fewer scientists, fewer doctors, fewer, like, which is
Right.
a very serious problem,
Yeah.
worldwide. Then if there just aren't people to, so not only is our society sort of in trouble because we can't make the things that we make, but then other nations or whatever can't do what they do because they don't have people to do it.
I like that.
It almost feels like we are on, like, this society is on the cusp of, like they're growing, and they're on the cusp of a infinite plateau of sorts.
Yeah.
Like no more progress beyond this point, perhaps. Ooh.
I'm curious, Amelia, what, following along with this idea, what something is that another, our neighbors sort of rely on us for. Like, what's something that we've been, what's a form of knowledge that's been really precious that maybe is, like, we're having a shortage of right now as we're having a shortage of making more people.
Interesting. Trying to think of the idea of like there being a shortage of knowledge is like hurting my brain.
Is it like because these creations are choosing not to go into those paths of knowledge? Like,
well, we do have this like anarchist collective too. So like, is there an issue with those like that they could have, should have, would have been doing these things and now aren't too? That just makes everything worse.
No, I like that. I like the idea that the shortage is from people sort of turning away from the expected expertises and
So are they like, I wonder like then if they're specializing in something else that isn't like maybe considered productive in that same way.
Well, it's kind of like in our society where like the contractors, the plumbers, the truck drivers, that sort of stuff, those professions are getting less and less with the newer generations because the newer generations are more about technology and growing into the the idea space and stuff like that, where all of these like hands-on sort of things are harder to employ for, but still necessary.
But I think also the understanding like too of like...
Yeah, we have all these philosophers and poets and game designers.
But yeah, and like
we make our money podcasting and making games.
Yeah, that like that's the thing that I want to do. Like the thing that I want to do doesn't need to be quote unquote productive.
Oh, I like that.
or
So
what
it's almost like
the
a
world believes is productive. Yeah.
yeah, like a crisis of self-determination is happening
Mm-hmm.
a little bit.
Love it.
Cool.
I don't know that really answered your question,
Interesting.
but I like where we ended up.
I like it. Yeah. Cool. Have we asked enough questions about the trouble? Are there any other questions about the escalating trouble?
Not from me.
Mhm.
I think I haven't taken a turn yet this round.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I'd like to introduce a touchstone.
Ooh.
Oh, interesting.
So, as the gardener, I'm going to plant a tree. Literally, this is going to be a tree of life. And as we are running low a substance, as it's becoming more and more hard to obtain, and what's the word when you're only allowed to have a certain amount of something?
Limited?
Ration.
Oh, yeah. That's,
Yes.
I couldn't think.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I mean, limited.
Synonyms.
This is a valuable seed of a valuable tree that, if it grew to its full height, could end this trouble. It's being planted in a secret place where hopefully it will escape the blight that has affected the other trees. And finding out the fate of this tree and who will sit in its shade will unlock a memory for my ghost if our story gets that far.
All right.
And do we ask
Very
you
nice.
questions about touchstones?
You do one more. You introduced challenges
Oh.
about why this won't be easy.
Interesting.
Okay, I think I have something, maybe.
Yeah.
Because these are like so limited because we're running out of these trees, is there the potential that it could be harvested before it even gets to a point where it can be shade for something?
Absolutely. Yeah. It's like a desperate cut, taking it while it's, just at a fraction of its potential.
Mhm.
It has to be guarded from that.
Yeah, because I think like if you wait, it can, it's like you have 10 pieces or something like that. But if you do it right away, you have one, but you have it quicker.
Oh, yeah. I like that idea.
Interesting.
You had mentioned a blight, Evan. It seems like another challenge might be just that there's something environmental that's making it hard for these trees to grow to their full potential.
Yeah.
So
Totally. That sounds great.
introduce that as a challenge.
Okay.
What? You sounded like you were like, oh,
you
I have an idea. And then,
Well, I had a thought about the world, but it doesn't really apply as a challenge to this tree.
Well, that's okay.
Okay.
I mean, we can end that conversation here. I've got my challenges.
Great.
You could take your turn. Introduce something.
Yeah.
Might as well. What if we went from sentient like organic, well, they're still organic, but it's like flesh and bone creatures that started creating these wood-based automatons that have sentience. What if the amount of people in the world, like flesh and blood people, is diminishing to the point where because usually there's the symbiotic relationship of wildlife and whatnot and carbon dioxide producing, and then the plants intake that and then create the oxygen for the people. What if that balance is completely thrown off because most of society is now these automatons?
Oh, that's really cool.
That's cool. So the literal composition of our air and our environment and the natural world is starting to shift away from one that's habitable.
Yeah.
Cool.
that's fascinating.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's so cool.
Do other societies make people to, like, is this a worldwide problem or like a planet-wide problem for us?
Yeah. I'm going to say yes.
Yeah.
Like, that's why it's gotten so bad. It's because it's expanded worldwide.
Cool.
But like, are we the only ones making the, like, is this like our problem to fix, or are other nations like having issues making people as well? Like,
I want to say it's a global crisis. Like, it's almost akin to global warming in a way. Something that we can see coming and something that we can see there's probably solutions for. But for whatever reason, we are continuing down this path of, building to our saturation point.
We have to build some people who know how to fix this problem, right?
Oh, we're automaton millennials.
Is this shift hard on everyone, or is it making it more habitable to the automatons and less to the flesh and blood?
I would say it's more habitable to the flesh and blood people.
Oh, okay.
Which is why the process of creating these people from these trees, the trees are not able to grow as well because there's not enough animal life on the planet.
okay, so if you think about it, like flesh and
respiratory
blood people, like we breathe out CO2, which is what the trees that need to grow, like turn into oxygen then.
Yeah.
So it's like, if there's like all of if we're growing these trees, like we're doing okay on oxygen, but there are also not enough flesh and blood people to like, although then I feel like that would be both, right? Because like if there's not enough people to make CO2, then there's not enough.
Yeah, it loops back around.
Yeah, it eventually would loop it back around, wouldn't it?
Right, because like we're not breathing out enough for trees to breathe in, and if there's not enough trees, we're not breathing in.
But we're at the point in the cycle where right now the trees are dominating the population. And yeah, that's a glimpse of what's down the line for us for sure. Oh, that's so cool. I feel like it's not my turn.
I don't know whose turn it is anymore.
So I think we've done 2 rounds. We've done 2 full rounds? I think so. So, I mean, it's like a good point to decide how much more we want to introduce to this world, before calling it. And, yeah, I mean, if we were playing a normal game of Questlandia, which again, the game is unfinished, but like this may be a point where somebody was like, I'm going to call for a scene. Like, we only have one, I guess we have one in-world character created, right? But like, would maybe call for a scene, or maybe not, or maybe make another NPC. Yeah. So,
I don't know. I feel like this is a good kind of like cliffhanger point to leave it at.
Yeah,
like,
I was kind of feeling that.
Yeah, I'd rather like not add more to it.
Great.
Well, I want to, but for the
right. But that's because you want to play this game now, Ryan.
Which is good.
I know.
Yeah. This is always the problem. Like, this is the thing that's, we were so stupid. We were so, what's such fools when we made this podcast of like, oh, now we have these really great characters and this really cool, like, setting that, like, we've made together. Okay, and we're done. Like,
yeah. Evan, I guess, do you want to, like, to sort of wrap up, do you want to show what it would look like to do a phase change? Because I don't actually know. I think we just made that up.
Oh, yeah. Well, let's do a phase change.
Ooh, let's do it.
Cool.
To end our visit in the world of Iris. So the phase change chart, which looks like a chart of moon phases. We are at the waxing phase where it is growing towards full. And if I were to call for the phase to change, we would roll a new trouble. And this trouble would come with a terrible and strange event.
Yes.
Oh.
That shakes up this
Should
setting.
I roll a trouble?
Yeah.
Let's do it.
All right, I'm going to do
yes,
it.
always. The answer's always yes. More trouble, please.
All right. It is an hourglass.
Oh, I was just looking at that one.
I haven't had that one. Okay, so let me open up my symbol reader again. That is connected to, what does that say? It's a little small on my screen.
Patience, promises, and foresight.
Oh, I mean, it feels like it fits right into this turning point that we're at of these tree, this imbalance of our ecosystem becoming a crisis. And yeah, I mean, maybe there's some sort of division in who, people saying that they have the answer, people convinced that they don't.
I think that like the patience and the foresight kind of play into each other, right? Like there are probably people that are like, oh, let's like wait a little bit longer. Like maybe we can get these trees to grow. Maybe we can just like, if we just keep it where it's at, we can see what happens. And then if there are people that are like, no, looking forward, this is really bad. We have to do something about it. We have to fix it now. Even if we're not sure that it will fix it, we have to try things.
Mm-hmm.
So if this is a trouble with patience and foresight and whatnot, is it that society is not patient enough with the trees?
Well, it looks like also part of the world connection of rolling this trouble is describing a terrible and strange event.
Yeah.
So, yeah, are people starting to cut down trees too early? What is the...
I mean, I'm imagining the museum on fire.
Oh.
Oh, dang.
So, I mean, the other thing, oh, I guess you can finish. Go ahead.
I'm imagining a movement to stop the creation, to halt it, saying it's bringing about this catastrophe. And the answer has always just been, well, we'll just make the right kind of people who will be able to avert the catastrophe. And a movement, the growing discontent has been rising and rising, and one day the museum is in flames.
Oof.
Burning a lot of the sort of treasured records of how to create our greatest creations, our greatest people, and threatening the entire system of registering these people and, the sort of order that society's been going on. We don't have to know who's responsible yet. So,
have people just forgotten how to make people the old-fashioned way?
Right? You never see anybody with a, corn pipe in their mouth, chisel in hand.
Are the new people killing the people-making industry?
Oh no! Look, there's not enough trees. People are ruining industries. Wasn't there didn't we introduce some sort of something that was like an environmental factor that was ruining these trees too? Or did we already cover that?
A blight or a sickness that's hitting them.
Yeah.
Either that or the sort of composition of the atmosphere itself.
Yeah. I mean, and definitely that composition.
It's a combination of the two.
Could be
the composition is letting a fungus thrive, for instance.
Right.
Or a certain pest.
Or the trees can't get big enough.
Right.
Like they get to a certain point and they just stop.
Oh, yeah. Tiny
growing.
Trees. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
But there's not enough.
Trees.
There's not enough there. They're too small to even use.
Yeah. Oh, things are grim in the kingdom of Iris.
Times for Iris.
Yeah, serious.
Yeah. So that, I guess that would be a phase change.
Yeah, that sounds pretty significant.
Yeah, that sounds like we should leave now.
We're like, let's not
open up the ghost passage.
Yeah.
Open it up.
I don't know. We don't need that air. I don't think. Oh no, we're as ghosts. We're the only ones that can save it because we don't need to breathe the air.
Uh-oh.
Oh.
We're just in time.
I'm kind of picturing a world that doesn't have big oceans at all.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. I didn't picture any water either.
Yeah.
Like a lot of water.
Like maybe some fresh water or whatever, but maybe those supplies are going into creating people.
Man, this is grim.
What?
And very surreal.
Yeah.
So that's what we're working on with Questlandia too. Obviously there's a ton to do still, but the hope is that it's just kind of this process that blends, that the character creation never ends.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we made sure of that.
Well,
That was so much fun.
I can easily see this just going on and on and on, and until you're at a point where, like, well, I mean, this world is just, we can't be here anymore because it's just making me too sad.
It's toast. Yeah.
Yeah. And scenes do a lot to sort of break up the pace of, like, this, like, kind of intense, like, mental part, where you're like, oh, like, we're thinking about this world and making it, and, scenes get into the role play and, like, change the pace, which is nice and can be refreshing. But, that's not part of character creation cast.
No.
No, we don't fix the problems. We just make the problems.
Yep.
Yes.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you both so much for joining us for our Questlandia 2 character creation. This was a lot of fun. Evan, do you want to remind people where they can find you online?
Probably their best bet is to go onto Twitter. My username is @DrawnNovel, which I thought I was being clever with an anagram, and now I just get to say that mouthful.
Oh, it's an anagram of your name?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Oh, that is clever.
That makes a lot of sense now.
Yeah. It's limited as a strategy for choosing a username.
It's a choice I made. All right. And Hannah, what about you? Where can people find you?
People can find me on Twitter @HandBandit. I also have a Patreon @HandBandit where I do some of my own small games and also post devlogs and updates for Questlandia 2. And of course, if people want to listen to Design Doc, that is our bi-weekly-ish podcast where we are redesigning Questlandia live, for everybody to see.
It's really good and extremely relaxing to listen to, I have to say.
That's really nice. Other people have said that too, and that I take that as a compliment.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, I love when people say that about, like, they'll say it about ours occasionally too, especially our opening, because we have like soft piano music under our opening. People are like, it's just so relaxing. Good. There's not enough of that.
Awesome. Well, and thank you everyone else for listening. Please join us on the next episode for our discussion block. Character Creation Cast is a production of the One Shot Podcast Network and can be found online at www.charactercreationcast.com. Head to the website to get more information on our hosts, this show, and even our press kit. Character Creation Cast can also be found on Twitter @CreationCast or on our Discord server at discord.charactercreationcast.com. I'm one of your hosts, Ryan Bolter, and I can be found on Twitter @LordNeptune or online at lordneptune.com. Our other host, Amelia Antrim, can be found on Twitter @GingerReckoning. Music for this episode is used with a Creative Commons license or with permission from the podcast they originated from. Further information can be found within the show notes. Our main theme music is Hero Remix by Steve Combs and is used with a Creative Commons license. This podcast is owned by us under Creative Commons. This episode was edited by Ryan Bolter. Further information for the game systems used and today's guests can be found in the show notes. If you'd like to leave us a rating or review, we have links to various review platforms out there, including Apple Podcasts, in our show notes. Also, check the show notes for links to our other projects. Thanks for joining us, and remember, we find that the best part of any role-playing game is character creation. So go out there and create some amazing people. We will see you next time.
Now we gotta read some show blurbs.
Show blurbs.
Show blurbs.
Show blurbs.
Show blurbs.
Character Creation Cast is hosted by the One Shot Podcast Network. If you enjoyed our show, visit oneshotpodcast.com, where you will find other great shows like all my fantasy children.
Each week, Aaron Catano-Saez and Jeff Stormer take a listener-submitted prompt and, using some of their favorite tabletop RPGs, create an original fantasy character. Along the way, they share laughs, stories, verbal hugs, and populate a shared universe, one story at a time.